Good morning. Welcome back to the Messy Cook. Happy New Year. Today I have decided to make some raisin scones. This is a basic scone recipe. I'm adding the raisins in. You can add anything else in it you like dried cranberries, blueberries, strawberries, chocolate chips, whatever you like. You can also flavor a little bit if you like as well. So the first thing I've done is I have preheated my oven to 400 degrees. Now my hubby, I'll show you here. Our oven actually died like 2 weeks before Christmas. My husband managed to get some parts and get it fixed. So this is my brand new oven. I'm excited. So I'm going to be baking lots of things. I've not had convection before, so this will be fun. So I'm doing this on 400 degrees for convection, but if you don't have convection, just 400 degrees is fine. I'm also going to be doing, using a round pan. You can use any pan you want. You've all seen the trick where you take a piece of parchment and you just fold it in half, and continue to fold and fold and fold until you get a little tiny triangle, if I can fold this properly, a little tiny triangle. And you're going to flatten that out, and you're going to measure from the middle of the pan, which is right about there. So you just do a little fold there, and I'm going to cut that off. So I wanted to, I use a square pan. I do have some silpats, which is just like your, your rubber, not rubber, but silicone lined pans. So I would use that. Otherwise, I'll show you here. This should fit the pan just about correct. It's a tiny bit over, but no big deal. So first you want to do is line your pan, preheat your oven to 400 degrees, which I've done. And we'll get into this recipe. So I will post this, show a picture of the recipe at the end here. So basically what we're going to do is going to whisk together the flour. So we're going to do 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So here's my 2-cup measure. I'm just going to, I'm not going to sift, I'm just going to get that. So 2. And I got some lovely new measuring cups and measuring spoons from my stepmom and my dad. So thank you very much for you, Joyce. Much appreciated, because these are really nice, and I like that they have all the different measurements. So 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And for sugar, let me get that out of there, dust myself off. The sugar, we're going to use 1/3 cup. So I'll just open up my sugar here. Probably should have had this pre-measured, but that's okay. This is a pretty quick recipe. So I'll do 1/3 even. There you go. It does have a couple of lumps in it. That's not a big deal, because when we whisk it, we're going to whisk any little lumps out of there. And we're going to add 4 teaspoons of baking powder, which is also 4 teaspoons is 1/4 cup. So, oh, sorry, no, 4 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. So 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. So I'm just going to use 1 tablespoon here, and even, and I'll use my 1 teaspoon. There you go. So that's done there. So I'm going to grab a whisk, and we're going to whisk this together. Oh, and salt. I forgot. Let me grab the salt. Hold on just 1 second. I'll grab that for you. Okay, sorry, and I realized that I used a 1/2 tablespoon of baking powder, so I used 1 tablespoon or 1/2 tablespoon instead of a teaspoon, so I've taken a little bit of that out. Should be fine, and this is calling for 1/2 teaspoon of salt, so we're just going to sprinkle that in. So now I'm going to get this all whisked up. Give me 1 second, we'll come back when I grab my whisk. Okay, so I've got the whisk. We're going to whisk everything up here. What this is going to do is just like make sure we blend all the ingredients really well together, and if you have any lumps in your sugar like I did, that's just going to break those lumps up. I think we're good. So we're going to set that aside. What we're going to do now is we're going to add the butter. So your butter has to be cold. It is a 1/2 cup of butter it's calling for, so I'm just using 1 stick, which is a 1/2 cup. So the easiest way I've found to do this, you can do it from frozen or just cold from the fridge. Don't do it warm. The cold butter or frozen butter, basically what that does by putting that in cold, it helps with the flakiness of the of the scone. So I'm just going to grate it in right into the flour, and as you can see there, it's just going in. The other thing, you can cut it in with a pastry cutter if you prefer. You can blitz this in a food processor. That works really well. basically what you're looking for is just a crumbly texture when you're all done. It's easier when it's frozen, but I didn't freeze mine, so that's okay. So what I'm going to do is we're partway through. You can see it in there. I'm going to just toss this around a little bit just to get the butter pieces coated with flour, so that way they stay separate. Pull that butter up again. Let's get rid of that little wax paper on the outside, and I'm just going to grate the rest of this in. Again, toss it and cover it. They're still quite stringy pieces. That's fine, no worries. So the other thing, I mean, you can cut this any way you want. You can use your hands. I wouldn't recommend if you can't, but you can. That's okay. Make sure your hands are cool and dry. Using your hands, there's just too much, and you can already see this little bit of butter is melting in my hands here. So using your hands is not as conducive to getting a flaky scone, but that's okay. We're going to use that. Let me just see here. I'm going to use my whisk there just to get those pieces up. So what I'm going to do now is just rinse my hands real quick, dry them off. Got all the butter, half cup buttered, cut in with all of this. And the other thing you can do when you're done to make sure it's cut in, because as you can see, these are pretty long strands of butter. We do want this broken up a bit more. So you can use a pastry cutter, you can use the butter knives, whatever you want, and you want to just break those up and in. Now I've prepped the rest of my ingredients because we do want to be sure that that butter stays as cold as possible. If you haven't got your ingredients, you can always take this and put it in the fridge just to keep everything nice and cool. And we can just continue to cut that in. So that's pretty good. So I've measured out the rest of my ingredients. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the egg and the milk. You can have 1 egg and 3/4 cups of milk. You're going to mix those in a separate bowl. So this looks pretty good. You can see it's kind of crumbly texture. There's a few pieces of butter, but that's not a big deal. So we're going to set that aside. Have another little bowl here, a little dusty in there. And we're going to add in my egg. So 1 egg, room temperature. If it's cold, not the end of the world, but room temperature is optimal. Oh, and I've got a little tiny shell in there, which we don't want. That won't be pleasant. We're going to whisk the egg, break it up a bit. I'm going to add in 3/4 cup of milk. I'll use 3%, but use whatever milk you have. It will be a little richer if you use 2% or higher, like 2% homogenized or 3%, which is 2% homogenized, whatever. Anyhow, you can also use skim milk or 1%, whatever you prefer. So we're whisking that all up there. Okay, so that's all done. Now what we want to do is you want to mix in the milk and egg. You're going to dump it into the center of, hopefully you can see, I'm just going to make sure this is all seen yet. So you can dump this right into the center. There you go. And then with your hands, they're saying just gently mix it together until everything is combined. So we're just going to be very gentle with it. You don't want to use a spoon or a whisk. The whisk, everything's just going to get clumped up. With your hand, you can get it quick, just till everything is basically combined here. I'm going to stick a little one of my fingers. That's okay. We're going to pull that off. Just make sure your hands are nice and clean. You can see it's kind of a crumbly, bit of a crumbly texture. It is a little bit sticky. That's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to, we don't want to overmix it. Basically, overmixing is going to make tough. If you've ever made pastry, same thing. If you overwork it, it's just going to get too sticky. And your pastry will not come out flaky. So I'm going to rinse my hands here, and I'm going to flour up the counter, and we're going to come back to get the next step going. Okay, so I've got a little bit of flour. I'm just going to, I don't want to do too much, just enough to kind of coat the surface. If you have a bigger table or marble counter, that's also really helpful. I don't. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take this dough, and we're just going to dump it out, because it is a little crumbly. I'm just going to use a spoon here just to scrape out the bits, because I don't want to miss any of that. That could be good pieces of butter and whatnot. So it looks very crumbly. It's just fine. So what we want to do is we want to put a little bit of flour on our hands. We want to press this down just a little bit. Now if you find, which I am, it's still a little sticky. Could be to do elevation or where you live or whatever. Just sprinkle a little bit more flour on the top. So what I want to do is I want to do this in a round, because I want to do triangle scones. You can do a cutter if you like. If you do want round ones, I would suggest a cutter, that's fine. The thicker you do it, the thicker your scones are going to come up. I'm going to do this to about almost an inch, maybe a little bit, 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to bring in this up. I just want to make sure this is holding well, that it's not all cracked, because if it's cracked, then that's not going to help. But I also don't want to work it too much. Now I'm going to bring it in here, and I want you to see all those pieces of butter that we grated. So that's kind of what you're looking for. So let me bring this in here. If you look really closely, all through here, hopefully you can see, the lighting isn't great. There's little lighter spots in there. That's the butter. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So I've got this at about 8 inches. Maybe I'll do it a little bit less. Some flour in my hands so it doesn't stick. There we go. And I'm going to take a very sharp knife. I'm going to use a serrated knife. I probably should have done this on a board so I don't scrape my counter, but my counters are old, so I'm not overly concerned. Now, like I said, if you wanted to do this in squares, do it into an oval shape. If you wanted to do it, this is sticking a little bit, so I'm just going to flour that up. If you wanted to do it in triangles, this is the way you do it. If you want to do it in rounds, just make sure your cookie cutter or your round cutter is very sharp. I'm going to cut this into 8. This should make 8 really nice ones. That's the recipe calls for. I don't want to do them too small because you'd have to adjust the baking time. Now the other reason for doing a really sharp knife too is because if you press the edges down, they won't rise as much. So we're just going to do that. I like doing this because it is a little bit sticky with the butter, because it is getting warm in here with the oven preheated. Okay, so I have an oven egg lifter here. I'm going to pick these up. I'm going to put them on the parchment paper. I'm going to make sure you can see that here. Yeah, you can see, okay. Get those all on there. Hopefully they haven't stuck too much. There we go. I just want to make sure these are separated slightly. And again, everything is sticking, so just tap a bit of flour on the side. See here, I want to separate these as well. There we go. They are a little sticky. I think maybe I probably could have added more flour, but I'm going to just go with this and hopefully everything turns out okay. There we go. Oops. And I have 3 more to get on there. So just leave a little bit of space in between. Just going to make sure that these, I know I cut them with a knife and hopefully, no, I'm not pressing the sides, but so I'm going to make sure that these are all picking up properly. There we go. And 1 more. So, oh, I forgot the raisins. Oh my gosh, that was the whole point of these. Well, I guess what I'm going to have to do is put the raisins on the top. That was the whole point of making these, was making raisin scones, and I don't want to mess with the dough. So just to clean my counter, I'm going to wipe that over. You're supposed to put in a 1/2 cup of raisins, and I completely missed that. So I'm just going to sprinkle a bunch on and kind of press them in, and I'll take a couple minutes and do that so I don't miss the raisins. But you normally would mix that in just before you dump it out on the counter to press it out. So let me put these in and see what we can do. Okay, so I managed to press as many as I could in. I got not quite a 1/2 cup in there, but I pressed some from the sides as well, so hopefully that'll help. The other thing, you can put this right in the oven from here if you want, and again, it's 400 degrees. You're going to bake them for 16 to 18 minutes. It does say an 8-inch round, so that's what you want to shape it into. What I want to do is make these a little more decadent. So I'm whisking up an egg here to make sure it's nice and whisked. You can add a little bit of water if you want. I'm not going to bother. What this is going to do is it's going to give, I'll put a little bit on the top just to give them a little bit of a gloss. You want to just do that individually. If you got the raisins in before, unlike myself, they won't fall all over the place. So I don't want to, just want to kind of sprinkle that on. I may have to read through these raisins. Again, remember when you're mixing the wet ingredients in, right after that step is when you should actually be putting the raisins, or whatever it is you choose to put in there. Like I said, don't do it like I did, or just do plain ones and do the raisins or whatever you feel like next time. So normally we just add those in before we take everything out of the bowl, pat it down and shape it. So I'm just kind of doing that. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to sprinkle a tiny bit of sugar on the top, because I don't know if you like it, but I like, not a lot, maybe a couple tablespoons over the whole thing, just a little bit on the top, and it crystallizes. So we're gonna get this in the oven, and I'm gonna set the timer for 16 to 18. I'll try 16 minutes and see how that goes. Again, I got this preheated to 400 degrees. It's nice. This has a pull out. It'll be easier to see things. We're gonna place this right dead center rack, right dead center of that. We're gonna pop it in. There you go. Just slide around a little bit, so just be aware. I'm gonna set my timer for 16 minutes. And timer. So we will come back at 16 minutes. What we're looking for is a slightly golden brown on the top. So as soon as that 15 minutes is done, we'll come back. Okay, so this is the recipe itself. This is raisin scones, but you can also, like I said, add in whatever you want, other fruit, like dried fruits of some sort. You could also put in raisins, raspberries, bits of strawberry, fresh blueberry, any of those. So I'm just gonna give a quick scan here. So you can take a screenshot there if you like. So we'll come back when those scones are ready. These are basically done, so I'm going to get them out. I'm taking a quick look. I set my timer, but it's weird it didn't beep, unless it's going to beep in the next couple of seconds. Ooh, these look absolutely lovely. Look at that. Super duper buttery. Buttery is actually coming out a little bit, so that's all right. But yeah, they look lovely. So we're going to get those out. I'm going to turn the oven off, just to make sure that's good. There we go. Oven will cool down, and I'm going to get moved over to the other side here and get them on a cooling rack. Okay, so these are done. A nice brown bottom, hopefully not overdone, because like I said, I need a timer. Oh no, they're perfect. Let me just turn one of these over to show you what they look like on the bottom. There you go. So they're beautiful on the bottom, and they've puffed up to, oh, 1.5 inches. So that's pretty good. And they turn into a lovely, lovely bundle here. So we're going to get these off. We do have to separate them. I probably could have done a bigger pan, but I didn't, so that's okay. I'm going to get this. These are very hot. So I'm going to get that turned around. Get these all on here and cooled. And when they're completely cooled, you can eat them when they're warm if you want, but you might get a bit, I find if I eat anything too warm, I get a bit of heartburn. So your best is to wait. I might also do these now. This said 16 to 18 minutes. I might also do them at about 14 minutes just to see. And hopefully 14 minutes will be enough. So that is raisin scones. So I hope you tried this recipe. And let me know what you think. They smell amazing. I'm going to be giving some of these to a friend of mine for her and her husband. His understanding likes raisin scones, so I'm glad to hear that, or remember that I've remembered to put the raisins at least on top, if not inside. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Please hit the like button. It does help get my videos out a little bit more. And click that little bell for the reminder whenever new videos come up. With my new stove, I definitely want to be trying some new stuff. I do have a killer recipe for buttermilk biscuits. I've got to locate that, and when I get that, I'll be doing that as well. So happy New Year to you, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.